pre-show.
All right.
Hello, pre-show.
Hello.
This is going to be an exciting episode of Smalltalk with Matt and John.
I'm John.
And I'm Matt. And this is our show. We have very loyal viewers, and we appreciate it. And remember, we are your puppets.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of this reality, you're puppeteered by your leaders, by the media,
Your pets sometimes.
by culture, by your pets. But this is your opportunity to relieve some of your anxiety and stress and puppeteer us.
Yeah.
We are your talking heads. We talk for you.
Yeah. Follow us.
Twitch has accepted your stream.
Thank you, Twitch.
Great. I'm patiently awaiting it to go on Think Twice Radio so I can share it.
YouTube has accepted your stream. Facebook has accepted your stream, so you guys can get shared up now.
Okay, we are.
Okay, let's see. Okay, hey folks. What an exciting show we're going to have today.
We're going to talk about Gnostic beliefs.
Gnostic beliefs.
I prefer Gnostic.
Gnostic, you could say Gnostic. I don't see why not. Yeah, and actually nobody. Yeah, we didn't live back then, so perhaps they use the term Gnostic beliefs.
Sure, the G was put in there at some point for some reason.
Yeah, but I think the term was Gnostic as in knowledge.
Huh.
Because it was about having secret knowledge.
Knowledge?
Or gnosis. So.
Well said, John.
Yeah.
Well said.
So, but basically they were, okay, since the time of Christianity, like very little was known about the Gnostics. They knew it was an early, branch of Christianity, like the Valentinians, or the Sethians, or some of the other branches.
What was the thing you talked about on that one show that was about?
Manichaeans?
Is it the thing that people believed that the voices in their head were gods or something? Type of thing?
Yes.
What was that called?
Oh, that was bicameralism.
Yeah. Is this related to that at all?
No, that was like the theory that ancient people were actually listening to voices telling them, make nets, prepare a trap.
So the Gnostics were.
Yeah.
There's not a spiritual cult.
Make a spearhead.
It's about knowledge.
This was basically an early version of a different version of Christianity, radically different. Actually, an upside-down version of the Old Testament of Christianity, of what we have today.
Okay, when you see the timer say on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay.
Hello, Think Twice Radio, and welcome to a sterling, exciting episode of Small Talk
with Matt
and John.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know what the word sterling means, but...
And it's the beginning of a new year?
Yeah.
And,
it's a new year, so yeah, how are you feeling in this new year?
Pretty good. It was pretty uneventful. Me and Sophie watched all the Planet of the Apes movies. Great quality movies.
I think that is a good use of... There's definitely and I don't know if Einstein, when he was considering his theory of relativity, considered like the period of time between Christmas and New Year's Day, because it feels like time slows down but also speeds up in certain areas. But I do think a valid use of that lull is using it to binge watch.
Yeah, there's binge watching and me a lot of sleeping in, staying up late, drinking.
Yeah, it kind of shows you what your worst self. You didn't have the responsibilities of providing your labor to the economy or providing for feeding other mouths or yourself. You just devolve into sleeping in and binging. But I'm glad. So you got through all of the Planet of the Apes.
All of Planet of the Apes. They were all pretty good. Some of them were weaker than others. And it depends on your own taste. I liked. Yeah,
I'm ignorant. What is the theme? Is there one giant theme or moral quandary that Planets of the Apes?
Yeah, there's
proposes?
a lot of ones like number one. Can we get along with apes ever?
I think we are. It's pretty, at least from our point of view. They're not violent. We're not violent. We're violent to them. They're not violent.
Do you remember the first one?
I'm ignorant. I just know that there's apes. And they're
Well, the
like
first one, I
people.
don't even really want to give the spoiler thing is, but the one astronaut, he goes back in time. Basically, he's flying his ship. It's a whole group of them. Like there's 3 of them, and they end up going back in time. And oh my God, it's a planet run by apes.
But
It's
apes
an
different
ape-
than humans. Are the humans and apes kind of subspecies?
The deal was, at some point, humans lost the ability to speak, and they became more animal-like, and which is explained in the different things. And but then the apes became smarter. Now that's explained in the latest version. Is like there was a virus that made apes super smart, some apes super smart and evolved smarter, and made humans like stupid.
I see. Is there some sort of maybe? Yeah, is it some sort of metaphor for our current reality as we enter 2025?
What they did a lot in there is they went back to racial stuff because they did one where like basically like humans were of course mistreated because they were a minority and they were treated as slaves. The first thing they show like apes on horseback. It's really cool. Like just netting humans, like these dumb humans, and putting them in cages and stuff, and it shows like slavery, and then it shows, of course, the ape worldview, which that there was like a ape god who made the world in his ape god image, and they think he's the center of the universe, and then of course the main character, he ultimately they discover he can talk, and he says, "Hey, no, I'm a man." And he does it all full Shatner. The first one, the '60s one. Yeah, I don't know if you know Shatner. He's like, one of the great lines is it? He goes, "Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape!" And it's a great thing. And all the monkeys are looking at him like, he said, "Oh my God."
Just have the quiet part loud. Well,
Yeah.
I hope it. I guess as someone that's ignorant to that series, I'm worried that maybe human culture in 2025, we're recording this early 2025, is devolving into maybe our more ape-like natures. I hope we don't devolve into things like violence and
Me too.
prejudice. But I've felt lately in 2025. It's weird. I'm personally optimistic in the new year, but maybe pessimistic as a culture.
We're not
of where we're headed.
We're not smarter as we should be. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think AI is kind of emerging
Nick.
in a
Hey,
way.
Nick.
Yeah, we have a comment here. We have Nick's World, one of our top viewers and one of our top puppeteers.
Yeah.
He's sorry he's late, which is all right. You're on time, and the Monkey King does have a movie on Netflix. And I feel like the cultures. I think what's his name? There was some author. I think he ended up killing himself, but he talked about how he saw technology, right? And I think we have all this technology at our fingertips. We have the Library of Alexandria, like in our pockets, but yet most people just kind of
What are you doing?
watch Netflix. And like
I'm not using it for the Library of Alexandria, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at an interesting point in time where we're changing. It feels like we're 2025. I reflected too. We're not only is a new year, we're a quarter of the way through the century, which is like I think we're in this time period where we're kind of moving from the 20th to the 21st century, and we're like we're not at the beginning of the century anymore. We're a quarter of the way through this thing.
We're devolving. Our president that we elected coming up, he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico.
I started the Gulf of America.
I don't know. Is that a smart thing?
I don't know. It's different. I can appreciate the not I think right. He's a businessman where he negotiates, but like I think not giving an inch and bringing something like that, it might be stupid. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. But Gulf of America seems like most of that Gulf is in.
Actually, I suppose geographically you can.
Well, there's lots of America in that Gulf, but then there's also lots of Mexico.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Well, I think that's something that I think will be obviously. There's the change in leadership. I think the last election felt like there was some sort of vibe. I think the youngins call it a vibe shift.
So.
And we'll see. I just hope we don't. I don't know. I'm personally optimistic. I
Good.
I think 2025 year is going to be a good year, and I'm optimistic. But
okay, good. Let's hope some good stuff happens. Yeah. Well, New Year.
Personal agency, I think, is important in times like these.
Yeah.
Ben, so you wanted to talk about the Gnostics?
Oh, yes. Okay. Now, Gnosticism. Okay, it was an early form of Christianity, and we never really knew a lot about it. Like, what was it about? Because we only heard about it through like the heresies, through like writers putting down the Gnostics, where they would write like, do not let the Gnostics amongst you, cast them out, and the Gnostics are corrupt.
Or the Gnostics just smart people? Is that what they're? Just people?
There's that's debatable. That early Christian, that would be probably good. Are they smart? I
don't get what Gnostics are. What early?
Well, okay. Gnostic means knowledge. I mean, obtaining secret knowledge.
I see.
So one of the things that being in this is you would have secret knowledge that the other people wouldn't have, which is common in a lot of religions. Where like the Druids had this, and even Buddhists, you obtain special knowledge. Like certain people, there's special that you don't necessarily give to the whole public.
Which I think is much different than our current era where, right, I think back in the day, right, you would probably have to go on some sort of spiritual journey, like, to just even acquire Buddhism. You'd have to go physically move your body across the continent to, like, study under some master, whereas now, I don't know if the Buddha's online, but I think the Buddha has a Facebook page, so you can log on there.
There is evidence that in Christianity, that early Christianity, even Jesus said stuff like, there's some very vague things that are very trippy things, and very, like, I think he even says at some point, there's certain things we just say through parables. We don't say this, so there is evidence that there was certain secret esoteric. So like in the ancient world, that was a big deal.
Because even Jesus, there was that lost period, but he was like a carpenter, and then he just disappeared for like a decade and came back.
Like, whoa.
So people did he? And I know that one theory is, maybe he traveled east to study Buddhism, or it was just kind of interesting that Jesus was he died when he was 34, and then. But the 10 years, just no one knows where he was.
I'm fascinated with that, too. Like, he was doing cool stuff.
I think I saw, conspiracy theorists talk about how even Moses, maybe he was just tripping on acid. And that's where, the vision of the burning bush. So I think there's an interesting, how much of ancient religion, is from psychedelics or, different translucent states of mind.
Because I know the concept of a burning bush. Think about that. It's like... And I know when people trip, there's a certain trip where they see lines, like very intense, like lines and forms, branches and things.
You have visions. I know, like ayahuasca, people talk about literally. You have visions and lots of drugs. Yeah, you feel like you're in a different. You go to a different reality, which is I think it's very interesting. I think. In the start of the 21st century, we're just starting to see. I think the medical communities. Right, I think there's so much damage between the war on drugs and even just the prejudice against, things that you weren't able to tax. And I think we're slowly starting to come to the understanding of how powerful just things like even marijuana or just, mushrooms, plants, things that grow naturally in the ground. I think some of that ancient wisdom is kind of, and that's something I think, one of the big tragedies I think of, when European culture met the Native Americans, I think, right, obviously there was, the genocide, there was, disease. But that could have been a changing moment in history of if there could have been some sort of, merging of two cultures, Native American culture with European.
Yes.
Because I think the Europeans we kind of viewed as, they were primitive in nature, but I think it was a kind of a yin-yang situation where they had a lot to learn from us and we had a lot to learn from them.
There's so much. Our niece, Loretta, will tell you, like from the Incas there was this priest who burned. Like, it was Franco thing, because you said it was of the devil. Like, a lot of Aztec, like the Aztec Bibles and writing, and his priest burned it. Because it was of the devil. It had their language and their,
like a Rosetta Stone.
Of their Bible and their beliefs. And he was like, hey, this is of the devil. How many ancient libraries have just burned? And it's just,
when you think about, what we could be, but
Yeah, but think about this. Okay, now the Gnostics, like I said, they didn't know a lot about, we knew nothing about them from their own perspective until in 1945. Big news happened. This is kind of the fun story. A bunch of our buddies, the Bedouins, were out there. Bedouins. They're great. They kind of like, they
it's like the Amish?
Move around. They're more like desert gypsies.
Okay.
They're Bedouins. They they travel around on camels. Or they're on their camels.
Are they like Egyptian gypsies?
Yeah,
or
the Egyptian,
Mexican
yeah.
gypsies?
No, okay, probably they're not. They're wanderers, maybe not gypsies, because they're traditional, more like the freemen or so you probably think of them like, from Dune. They're these traditional guys, old fashioned guy. Believe in mystical stuff. They were digging probably for firewood. They were digging, and guess what they found? They found like 58 jars of scriptures in it. Now, they didn't know what was in the jars. They found these jars, which is really cool. So, like, basically, they found jars, which is one of the funnest things. Imagine finding 50 jars of ancient stuff.
Scriptures that you couldn't translate? Or?
Yeah. They didn't know what they were at first. Now, wisely, they didn't open them up at first because they thought there could be a jinn in there. In Islam, you got angels, you got devils, and you got jinn. Jinn is another spirit. We call them genies.
Okay.
But they've been translated as genies, but they call them jinn because you don't want to open to one of those things and you can screw them. So they didn't do that. Actually, one of the dude's wives actually burned some of the scriptures. Like, not a lot, but enough to be like, what the hell did she... Because she was like, they had them like laying around. They didn't know what to do with them. They didn't open them right away, but I guess one woman did burn.
It reminds me of how, there's even like farmers now that will just like put a shovel on like a hill on their property and just, there's some buried ancient city here that's 10,000 years older than, what we thought civilization went to.
Yeah.
I think it was like Gobekli Tempe, and there's just, I think that there's another civilization that was just found that's like, this is way older than we thought human civilization went back. And that's kind of, it's weird how our history, it's the way I kind of perceive it is like, humans were cavemen, and then like 10,000 years ago we just kind of sprouted up. But there's this whole, I think we kind of underestimate prehistoric humans. Yeah, drastically, way more drastically. I think and a lot of us, we're watching Netflix, but if you dropped us in a forest, we're modern humans and we're so smart, but we wouldn't last very long in the elements. Yeah,
but it turned out, but these jars, it turned out they did end up. It turned out there was it was called the Nag Hammadi Codex was in there, which basically at some point these Gnostics they buried all their stuff. It was obvious because if you read it, you can understand why. Because it's very offensive to ancient Christians and even modern Christians. Because there's like a thing called the Book of John, which are writings of the secret Book of John. There's a book of Judas, a book of Thomas, and there's different religious script. In the one book, Judas was a good guy. It's Judas told from his perspective. Is like Jesus came to him and he said, "You're one of the better disciples," and he told him to basically to sell him to the money lenders or whatever to get him crucified in the first place. So Judas was a good guy in that text. And also in the Book of John, one of the things is if you read in the Book of John, it has a whole different creation thing. Like basically, John is like. He's like, where? Oh, Jesus is dead. But, of course, then Jesus kind of appears to him.
That's why I wonder the whole writing of the Bible, right? Jesus died, and then, like, the disciples just spent 70 years just kind of cobbling together the Bible. So how much copying and pasting was there versus, like, original thought? Or were they just recollecting what Jesus said? Or were they like, this book of Judas from the ancients, this parable we can wordsmith it and come up with something?
Or was it other people were writing this and, like... The people, rewriting the stories, and like the Book of John, it also they're different. The apostles don't agree with you, and these things. He gives a really trippy account of like, basically he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you about the real God, and like it's that basically one of the things that comes in the Book of John is that the Creator God in the Jewish Bible is evil. He is a demiurge. He is a false god. And one of the things that he is a false, he's fake. But he was saying that there was one original God. And they describe it really trippy, where he then had a thought. And that became, which was a mirror of himself. And that they called it the Barbol. And then that had another thought and emanated that emanated from itself, and it created like a male-female dichotomy. And basically, they have this one pure absolute God, absolute great absolute. He said, it's indestructible and everything, but then it thinks, and then it makes another thing. They call it an eon or an aeon, or an econ. Archeon.
So this is kind of describing, like, I like how we just call it the Big Bang. It's just,
They are big.
just
And
something happens.
They create, like, basically, it said 12 different, like, these beings, like a male and female, until, and they're called, like, truth and, forethought and,
what virtues do you think are, if you could pick one virtue that you were, if you were a video game character and you could only max out one virtue, what would it be? Would it be knowledge? Would it be courage? Would it be, I don't know, fortitude, industry?
Character, compassion. Compassion, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, at some point, they didn't emulate Sophia, which is wisdom. And this Sophia, I like Sophia because my girlfriend's name is Sophia. But this is the deal. She wants to do something radical. She wants to create without the approval of the divine first spirit, the divine creator. I'm telling this all good, but they tell all freaky. So it's described, she wants to create without that. It's described, which you're not supposed to do, because every other one is like two things, like just recreating itself, but with the purity of the original. So it's real trippy, because it's I feel like I'm trying to describe the Matrix to somebody in the 40s.
You're trying to describe spirituality. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe something I've maybe pondered is maybe in this current time, like as our culture experiences like the TikTokification of our culture, where our culture is like eroding. Yeah. Maybe you'll have like this renaissance, or maybe do you think we'll have some sort of spiritual enlightenment in this new age? I know there's some philosophers said the most important moment of the 21st century was, the bringing of Buddhism over to the West. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we're kind of in a culture, I don't know, where you see, Catholicism and the institution, which is religion, is kind of definitely dwindled in its power and influence over the culture. But I'm curious what replaces that. Do we just replace it with, Netflix and boredom and idleness, or does it kind of spur some sort of spiritual renaissance?
I hope we have a spiritual renaissance.
Yeah, I think we're in the middle of. I hope we have many different renaissances. I feel like we're in this moment where the internet is kind of the meta level, and the internet's just kind of disrupting everything, and it feels very painful and weird in this moment. But I think we are in the beginning of some sort of digital renaissance where, we have this, instead of having to travel by camel to acquire wisdom, anybody with internet connection can just get wisdom on the internet. It's the application of that which is much.
Yeah, but it would be. Yeah, I think you do gotta travel, and you gotta meet the guru, and you gotta focus on some mantra, and mess with your diet.
There definitely is something that can't be replaced by a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how does that? Right, especially just think how easy it was to control the masses back in, I don't know, the 1300s when, most of the population was illiterate. So they would just hear, the guy in a fancy bedazzled outfit that speaks sermons on Sunday tells me the truth, and then I believe it. Like, that's much easier, whereas now, if people have access to information, kind of like people have access to information, how that just radically changes the culture. And I think you're already starting to see that with, the internet, even just replacing channel 2, 4, and 7 as the holy source of news, right? We're in this weird reality where anyone, we're just talking heads on the internet, and we have, we're talking and people are listening to us. Yeah. So you're kind of in this fractured reality. We're all in different realities.
Yeah.
And we have Nick's world. He's really, chiming in here with. I'm just ignorant today. I don't know what
Dark Crystal,
Dark Crystals and Truth. Sounds like a board game.
I did see the series. It's a great series and original movie. The original movie is great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Huh. Pop culture and movies is a part of my frontal lobe that has not been developed.
Oh
pretty much
man,
at all.
You gotta work on that.
Yeah, I guess it just I don't know. It's a cost benefit analysis when just donate. I don't know. Yeah. But I think could be into movies. I don't know. It's just something I don't know why I never, it's a cost benefit analysis. And
So anyway, now this is what Sophia, this is what she wants to do. She wants to create without a mate. She wants to have a child without a father.
Somebody was recently telling about some species that it was Vinny. He was at Thanksgiving. He was talking about some frog that just reproduces by itself. And then somebody let the frog out of its cage in the hallway and started to do that.
So that's what Sophia did. She basically, it's described as an abortion. She created this thing called Yagabuth, or Yaldabuth. It was described as an abortion, as like a lion, like a snake with a lion's head, and that thing was it thought it was it was arrogant and ignorant, and it thought, I'm the only God. And she cast it out into the void, and it thought, I am the only God. And then that thing that was like an abortion, it was like from the divine, but it was ignorant of the divine, started doing the same thing that the divine spirit originally did. It created like 12 archons, and like they name them all.
Archons like disciples?
They're described. There's like one with a bear head, one with a hyena head, one with a head of flame, one with 7 snake heads. They were all freaky.
Like how ancient folktales, it just seemed like they just, take the head from this thing and put it on the body of this other thing.
There's a lot of that in the Bible, too. There's a lot of, like, almost stupid stuff, too. Like, it's fun when they describe, like, the demons and stuff. Like, what do they have, like, a goat head and a horse head?
Yeah, or that's the human with the horse body. Like, why was that? What does that represent? And what does that? There's that Greek mythology.
I think that was just primitive people coming across horse people, be like, "What the hell?"
Oh, people riding horses.
Yeah.
I wonder what that would be if you've never seen a horse before, and then you saw people wearing armor riding a horse. Like that would be really just the fact that a human would have a massive, powerful animal just under complete control.
Yeah.
That would be really.
Yeah, you'd be. Like,
I also think the original indigenous people that first met the Europeans, like what were the religious people there that would have to explain to the masses what this was that they were experiencing while they themselves didn't know, like how that went down.
I think horse is it's a force multiplier, like psychologically too, because the humans up
especially
here,
at Clydesdale.
Yeah.
Clydesdales are big and they're scary.
Yeah, and you probably wouldn't know. Is that attached? Like, you'd be like, yeah, it's impressive. But yeah, so anyway. Sophia, so basically there was this, and this God said, everybody said, I am the only God, and I am a jealous God, and you will not worship any God before me.
Isn't that what Catholicism, right? What is it?
What's
the one commandment is about? Yeah, false idols.
That's the first one. That's right out of the Old Testament. So this is taking the Old Testament God, and then this Old Testament God basically then creates the world. Like to Gnostics, this whole world was created by an inferior God. Like, and so it also, so everything is supposed to be kind of crappy. Like, this is supposed to be a crappy pen. Atoms are crappy. Hydrogen's crappy. Helium's crappy. Because it's made by this inferior God. Where there's this true, actual God way above this other God.
Hierarchy. A bureaucracy. I always wondered if heaven, is heaven run like a bureaucracy? Or is it more flat? Or is it a dictatorship? How does that run? Because you actually have the bureaucratic tasks of managing, assigning people ID numbers as they enter the gates of heaven, and then assigning them into different.
I think they do it more by your sins weighing you down or lifting you up more than a hierarchy. It's more like.
But when you die and you go to heaven, right? There's a cloud, and then is there a line, or do they have it like a queue, or do they have a bunch of chairs like the DMV, and do you just get a ticket and wait for your turn, or do they? Or is it like the Disneyland where you have the priority riders who then, you have less sins, so you go to the front of the line?
I would say go to YouTube, look up the secret text of John, and it gets into that. It gets into the vastness of heaven. And they really talk all, like, the wholeness and the fullness of heaven. And, like, it does it better than what I could do. It's on YouTube, it's like the secret gospel of John, Gnostic gospel of John. And it really...
We should start working on our own. I don't know. Maybe if
Our
we
own
start
Gnostic
throwing down our own book of Matt and John.
Yeah, Matt and John. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. We can bury it in a canning jar in our backyard, and maybe some ancient or some future people will find it. Then, yeah, there's something about finding old scriptures in a vase.
Yeah.
That could affect people in the future, regardless of what's in there.
Yeah.
Or just
Well, actually, this is the thing. They haven't translated all of them yet. So there's other trippier things. There's the Book of Thomas, which it's another branch. The Thomas Christians are pretty interesting because they say this is a fun thing. That in heaven, guess what we have? A spiritual twin of ourselves. So there's a spiritual Matt in heaven and a spiritual John in heaven.
oh, like your own angel.
Yeah, like your angel, and then you could I'm reattached to myself. Hooray! It's like whoa.
Oh, you're like your best self.
Your best self, like oh yeah. So like, I like to think and also so your self is looking down at you, going oh John, that's a great podcast, right? Or Matt is going oh man, what a podcaster he is. Like,
Interesting.
that's trippy the way that's kind of thing. Like they had because also according to that too, Jesus had a twin brother
Really?
named Judas.
I see.
Which is weird.
And Judas is the devil, right?
No, they don't go. No, this is the thing. In this thing, the devil is the Yeldabuth. They don't really. Yeah, they don't really get into the devil that we know.
Huh.
So in Gnosticism, that's the devil the way we see him. As a guy. Oh, that's another thing. This evil god is then tricked to making man. Because it's basically the good god and Sophia want to they trick that god into making humans. It gets into a whole trippy thing where that god is given the idea of making humans and he takes their equivalent of what I guess we would call a demon. Has to create every part of the human body. Like they have, a demon makes the pinky, then one makes the forefinger, one makes the hand. Then there's like a demon makes the arm and the shin, and they name them. They go through it, and they name even the genitals, and your wiener. There's an angel that makes that. An angel that makes your forearm and the left
There's
forearm.
like a bureaucracy of.
There's a whole, They
It's like an assembly. They have an assembly line.
They get into it. They do. They name them all, so it's pretty trippy there. So anyway, they make a fake human. They put them in, and eventually they make a nice little girl human for them, named Eve. And they put him in it's Yeldabuth. He's the evil god who's he's jealous of Adam and Eve, and he makes them do that stupid, don't eat the apple thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. No, I don't know if he does that, but basically he's a prick to Adam and Eve.
Yeah, what do you think I think, stories are some of the most powerful. Because I think one of the constraints human civilizations and humans always has the ability to transfer knowledge over time is very difficult, right? If I learn something, it's hard for me to pass that down to future humans. I gotta either write it down or, for a lot of history, humans haven't had writing language. The easiest way to get people to remember things is tell things through stories or. Right, and we spent a lot of time in the ancient world before we had light pollution, sitting under campfires, entertaining ourselves, telling stories. And passing knowledge. So actually stories are kind of one of the most powerful mediums because it's what kind of helped us, maintain some sort of knowledge. I don't know how much knowledge we've lost. But yeah. Well,
I know, the Iliad, that's a song. Well, it's all a series of songs. They're all sung. Those were memorized by poets. Would memorize the entire Iliad. At some point, there were guys who would hey, sing me the Iliad, and it's a tome.
It's a profession, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thick.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think poets, arts, and culture has always been a lot of times those people were the king would have his own jester who would just be responsible for entertaining the king. So actually, just the ability to entertain and have culture that was a big part of the part of the society.
And it would amuse people would be more easily amused.
I think I was, watching the thing about Barnum, the Barnum circus guy, and he would just go around the world just collecting freaks or people that were weird, complete outliers. So people that were extremely short or extremely tall or had some sort of deformity,
Yeah.
and he would just go around the world just finding freaks and
Yeah.
paying them to join his troop, and then he got them all together and he like made a business out of it, which was fascinating because you see some of the stories, like there's the Elephant Man that had some sort of weird genetic thing. It's just a very weird. It was popular. I don't know. Yeah. Before the internet, you didn't see a lot of people that were abnormal. So the fact that there's some businessman, entertainer guy that just went around the world finding, the most outliers he could find, and then getting them all together and turning it into a business was, a lot to think about.
I guess it's, and for the people, like if you're like a short guy, and you're just maybe the best thing is to go to the circus.
That's the thing is there's a story of like there's these people that they had they were just freaks, but then Barnum turned them into gave them a purpose, which is kind of a really twisted thing. But you had people that it actually did kind of give some people I don't know, it was just an interesting way because at a certain point there's just some really really bizarre people that really their best option was, especially with how he actually paid them fairly well, so it wasn't like he was running slave labor or anything.
I know people do, you shouldn't do this, it's terrible, but I mean, they need jobs too.
That's the thing is, there's lots of people buying tickets, so it was the normal people that were buying tickets and feeding the thing. And I think our entertainment has become very mundane, especially when you think of like the gladiators, and you would go back, people would watch other human beings or gladiators get maimed by lions and bears, and that was their entertainment. So, and now we've kind of got rid of that type of stuff, and now we have Netflix, which is a whole different type of
endless.
I actually saw that somebody stated that the video game industry is kind of losing their bet on they kind of have been betting that the move in the future and the best bet is to develop the most realistic, most top graphics. Where now kind of the 90s style pixelated graphics is making a comeback. And actually it seems like people might prefer, you think of Minecraft is very rudimentary graphics, but there's something about and I'm just a 90s child, so I reminisce and have a nostalgia factor for pixelated graphics, but there's maybe some evidence that maybe users in mass are kind of prefer the pixelated graphics versus super hyper realistic graphic displays.
That's why I think I kind of like games like Minecraft where they didn't use a lot, they didn't have to make it look super real, but it's a nice environment. Or what's the other one? Something Crossing, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think. I don't know. We always think, maybe that is the future, whereas people just prefer kind of rudimentary games. Maybe there's a certain threshold that improving, making the graphics even more realistic isn't in a payoff. Especially when you think about how much data and energy it uses just to kind of render real time graphics. Because are you a gamer, a video gamer?
Okay, this is the thing. I was. But so many things with my new job, I don't have the time for it. I could put out a half hour a night to do it, but I know that would keep me up.
Well, that's the thing is I think, and I'm kind of in the same thing. I am a recovered gamer. I used to, gaming was a huge part of my identity growing up.
Halo,
Halo 3 was one of my favorites. But there's something about the pressures of being an adult where, like you're saying, I'll only play half an hour a night, but that's not how video games work. You don't play video games in half an hour, 7 days a week intervals. It's like a binging type thing.
I know, and
especially now the video games become it's like a subscription. It's like a thing. It's not. Back in the day, you could just buy a console and a game and you're set. Now it's you got to buy a subscription package. And you got to get a winner. But I don't know. I'm open. I kind of have maybe been inspired to maybe retake gaming.
There's I see it as almost worlds I want to go into.
Gaming is actually at the cutting edge of a lot of culture. A lot of culture is downstream of games.
I remember we were talking about Sun Wukong. There's a game about him. It's called Black Sun Wukong, where it's basically the Monkey King, and you're fighting as a monkey, and you're doing all the stuff that you did in China, this Monkey King would do in China. You're beating up dragons and gods and
Yeah, I think games are some of the or video games are some of the most interactive forms of media, and I think all media is kind of going towards video games. 'Cause I think
Black with Wukong, Nick's there, yeah.
And it's just another form of passive entertainment.
My one buddy kind of makes me. Well, Thomas Bentner, our buddy, he kind of makes me feel guilty for playing video games.
For playing, but let's say the morality of being shamed into playing games of they're fun like any entertainment. I think obviously you can take it too far.
But yeah, because I do like that. I have that male part of me too that likes guns, and I want to do it in video games. I don't want to go get an actual gun because I'll probably end up hurting myself. But in a video game, that is so cool. I like sniping people.
I think men are drawn to games. I think gaming, right? It kind of replicates a lot of maybe the male experience, which is kind of degraded over the past, I don't know, half century or so. But the whole idea of being part of a tribe, you go on missions. There's something. I think you're seeing a lot of men kind of cope with their reality with just diving into games.
Yeah, here's a question: are we getting whacked over the head? As guys,
I think there's some data to reflect that. I think. Right, and there's no, even just the term, right? There's toxic masculinity, but there's no such thing as toxic femininity. So I think we're just in this moment of culturally. There's back like your dad and my grandpa being a man back then was very much you prescribed, right? You married your high school sweetheart, you got a job at the auto factory down the road, you worked, and that was it. Whereas now, I think, the economy is different, right? So you had women enter the workforce, and now you have dual income houses, and now a lot of women are actually surpassing men in education. So a lot of women are actually able to support themselves. Which not saying that's good or bad, but it kind of diminishes the role. Yeah. And then obviously you have the gutting of our economy, where it's a lot of blue collar work. I think something that I've come to is either it was disparaged or a lot of our jobs have gone offshore. And I think one of the things is someone that kind of grew up somewhat affluent and was on the whole college degree course. I think something I've come to realize just how much I enjoy blue collar work and working with my hands and building things, which is not something that was never marketed to me as like a viable option. Yeah. But I think men are definitely struggling. There's definitely, I think, and not to bring it back to Trump, but a lot of when you looked at the voting data for this past election, right? Men are highly, not just white men, but you had African American, Latino men, in all shapes, all colors were voting for Republican, because I think even politically, the Democrats have kind of, there's definitely a general sense that they don't, they kind of are appealing to everyone but men, and I think we're in this moment. I don't think it's talked about enough, especially when you look at kind of opioid deaths and all sorts of variables. But I don't know what's your experiences.
Okay. Geez. I don't like the whole reactionary. I don't like the whole incel thing. I'm not down with any of the Fox News ideas of masculinity. Of my attitude is go F yourself, kid. I don't buy into any of that. I don't think we. But it is tough being a guy. They don't let you. You don't get it. Guys are always in the wrong. Women are always in the right. Guys are always in the right. So guys are put in a really tough situation where. So we are in a tough situation. It's weird,
I think the way I heard it could describe too is kind of like when you think of like a statistical bell curve, right? Like I think there's a lot of anger rate of the patriarchy men, which is true, right? At the top of the distribution, the top percent, men are running everything, right? Men are the richest people. Men are, have most of the wealth. Men, hold power positions on the power structure. But also at the other end of the bell curve, right, the very bottom, most homeless people are men. Most drug addicts are men. Most violent criminals are men. Most people in prison are men. So there's kind of this weird distribution of, men are both, right, fully running things, but also at the complete, right, go under some highway overpass and count the homeless people and see how many of those people are women. So it's kind of this weird, people, it's like anything. It's like talking about one race or one demographic. It's way more nuanced than that. I think there's definitely a higher variability of your outcome as a man. You could either end up running, being a wealthy billionaire, or you could end up being homeless under a bridge. And there's kind of a wide variability.
And there's a trade-off. I mean, we all have our own. We all have to go through bad, horrible things. Women do. Guys, women have with the way they're looked at, the way they're judged for their looks, like all the time. That's a tough road to hoe. And also, like there's a line in a song where one woman goes, like, guys just want women to like them and be nice, like them and approve of them, whereas women don't want to be killed by men.
Yeah.
Like they have to worry about that. Like, will this man kill me? You know,
I think that's something
yeah,
I can appreciate without fully ever being able to understand it. Like I've never felt, even just when I was in my 20s, I just went backpacking by myself across Europe and like just la-di-da-di-da, just did that. And I think, there's a certain way that men move through. I don't have to worry about anyone wanting to, rape and kill me. Like there's just certain areas that are just outside of, you're aloof. So not saying that being a woman is easier, but there's definitely, and I think that's a whole rise of feminism and women's rights for so much of human history, women were literally property. It's the whole reason that, they would take your last name or back in the day, you would just be bartered off. We've made such great strides from women's rights. Like women can open a bank account now, which is great. But at the same time, I think a lot of that, So it's just, it's two different realities and something, I can't speak on, but
I don't like the bad movies like Madam Web. It's sometimes when bad writing in movies, like that's when they write movies with like a female character who's like can do no wrong and like that's bad. But some movies are well written that I like. Like okay, like people get angry at girl bosses, which I don't mind.
That's even the thing is right, women just get kind of they can easily get just a boss bitch or like they can be branded as something. I think it's something they can just acquire terms just through through moving in the way a certain way. I think that's kind of what the whole transgender and this obsession culture with gender is just kind of people. I think for most of human history, it was pretty made sense, right? The men go out and hunt and protect. The women stay home, cook and clean. That like made sense because physically and just the division of labor, right? There's all these tasks that need to be done for us to survive, and I think we've kind of been grown up. Our whole society is around kind of these buckets. You're men, you do this. If you're a woman, you do this. And we're definitely, I think, at this point that those roles are starting to get blurred. I think it's interesting because I think ultimately America's founded right on individual liberties and discovering, ultimately freedom is expressing who you are as a human being fully, and not being kind of constrained by your gender or sex or your physical appearance, whether it's race, age, height, anything. We have a comment here. What do you think was the best thing that happened in 2024? I'm going to say. The best thing, I think. What if you think historians looking back on 2024? What do you think? What do you think? I think. What are kind of the headline? Right, you get a paragraph in a history book. 2024. I'd say. I think maybe not the top moment, but I would say I think the assassination attempts this year, whether it's the Trump assassination attempt in Butler or the healthcare CEO. I don't know, and I think maybe the easiest part about history is you have the whole right. You can write about 2024 knowing right if you're in 2015 you write history, what happened in 26, 27, 28, so you can kind of connect the dots. But now in real time, it's hard for us to sit here in 25 and say what this means. But I think it was the healthcare CEO and he was killed.
Yeah.
And my initial reaction when I heard the story was thinking about my paternal grandma who spent 5 years as a vegetable in a medical facility getting shit treatment and getting extorted in that personal rage, and then that was kind of my first reaction. But I went on Twitter and it was like, oh, everyone else has an old. It's not my grandma's story, but they have their own personal story. And I think it was just eye opening of like, oh, the temperature in the room. It was like a room check of people are not only people not that upset with this assassination, which obviously it's a human being being killed, but also it's like, oh, we're like on the verge of something here because this feels like maybe this is what the marionette eat cake. Maybe this is what it felt like right before that happened.
Yeah, because even in my head, I'm like, okay, don't kill him. But part of me is like, we should kill him. Should be because the guy has a family who got assassinated. But I agree. It's like why? How could we live in a world where this guy, this parasite, the rich guy,
this guy just kind of took
Yeah.
the archetype of the health insurance industry, right? He was kind of a symbol of the whole
Yeah.
health insurance industry.
No, but
Yeah, I think we live in a peaceful society. But right? They say, "Oh, peaceful, peaceful, peaceful." But how long can you wait for legislators to do something before people take it into their own hands?
that's really what would be the best thing if a party actually did, and neither party has yet. Maybe Bernie sounded like he wanted to do something, and actually did something.
Yeah, I think that's
Attempt.
even just going back. Whether it's you look back and we have the comment of mix up, but the original question was 2004. So even going back to even the 2008, the Occupy Wall Street movement that was kind of suppressed. Then you had I mean, Arab Spring when you talk internationally. Then you talk about the Bernie movement, which was also again suppressed. How many times can you suppress that before that eventually then does that energy? Right, you can only say, not this election. Trump must be stopped. Vote for.
But the thing is, though, too, or not just replaced, but the thing is, it was replaced with the Tea Party movement. The Tea Party, that was about then became Obama is the devil movement. The Tea Party was against they bolstered Wall Street. They basically they basically bailed out Wall Street. People were so pissed off, but it turned into a bunch of old people who the government's going to take it was basically people who hated Obama and this new the people in office now. It's Elon, my boss. He's in charge now, and all these billionaires are literally in the White House right now. The richest people in the world are literally in charge, but they were put in charge by MAGAs, by these people who they think it's like they're revolting against. They're not revolting against the system.
The billionaires around the world. Do you prefer them to be out in front and transparent, or kind of what? Is kind of the critique of the Democratic establishment. The billionaires are still running the club. They're just in the shadows pulling the strings. They're not out in the White House press room. That's why I don't know. I think, and I think when has there ever been a peaceful revolution in history, right? I feel like it always turns somewhat violent. And I feel like, the assassination attempts, just there was always something growing up that's something that happened long ago that doesn't happen anymore. But it was the different temperature on Reddit and Twitter around the CEO assassination was are we on the verge of something here? Because it seems like people are cheering this on. Because again, the healthcare is such a predatory. It's I don't know if you could find a single person that would be health insurance is a great thing. So I don't know, and especially I fear with inflation and kind of the economic uncertainty of people are genuinely hurting, and when does that that pain that could easily be, and especially if you have someone in charge that has awareness of that and can manipulate that, you can turn people violent. I'm optimistic. I don't know.
He originally was asked about 2004.
So
what happened at 2004?
The best thing that happened 24. I think 2004, if I can remember it. I'm someone I was an emerging adolescent in that time period, but it does feel now like the early 2000s were kind of, I don't know, I look back at it with a sense of nostalgia. I think it was a time, it was Facebook had just started coming out, so the internet was a thing. It was a thing that you could kind of play games on, but it wasn't a serious, you would still go outside and shoot the basketball around.
I'm trying to think what I was doing in 2004.
I think 2004 will be remembered as the time, the last bit of pre-internet history. The internet was still a thing, but it was, and I think, especially Gen Z, it's kind of hard to explain to them, how big of a deal or how big 9/11 changed the culture and the society.
That's what I go back to.
So 2004, I just think looking back now, I kind of look back at that time fondly as reminiscing of that was a different era. Because here we are 20 years later, and it feels so much different culturally. I think even growing up in the late 90s, before Columbine, Columbine was such a shocking thing, and now it seems like that's the weekly news. Now it feels that's maybe the last of the American empires, really unquestioned. I don't know, things just felt very stable in 2004. But again,
I go back mentally before 9/11. To me, the Clinton years, those were great.
Yeah, like
to me, it was like we were at peace. The world was at peace. It was very prosperous. The only thing was people were upset that Bill Clinton got a BJ, and that was the only thing. They were just oh my God, it was the end of the world. It was like. I know Republicans now were pissed off about that.
I think that was like the beginning of the divisiveness of our politics, and also the meeting of the culture. But I think as someone that didn't really even grow up, I wasn't around in the 80s, but just knowing that whole there's just an era of the end of the 20th century of American culture and politics. It feels, I don't know, I look back on it fondly now because you just realize how stable things were. And I think we're at the point now where, right, we've been kicking the can. Yeah. We're still kicking the can down the road, but we're at the point where it's like, the actual mechanics of this machine are starting to slowly break down.
I hope, though, when this is over, people are going to be like, we can't kick the can down the road anyway. Like, because Trump is only going to get 4 years. I know he'll probably try for more, but after that, it's going to be like, I think we're going to have to be like, okay, now we have to be adults.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, what is the post-Trump vision for America? And I think, right, this next 4 years is going to be transformational. I don't want to know, like, we're going to come out of a different country than we are now, but what is the post-Trump, how does Trump's term end, right? Does it die by the bullet? Does it die through some sort of power grab? Does it die through peaceful transfer? That's still yet to be written. But what is the post-Trump order? Because I think at some point we do need to move forward to a new vision of America. And I do feel like there's this untapped sense of American pride. Like I think you kind of briefly saw after 9/11 where like people were genuinely proud to be American. There's this sense of American spirit. Yeah. And I think it is kind of, whether it's spiritually, national, I think there's this kind of untapped desire for people to feel proud again, to like be a human being and be an American and have pride in a sense of self.
LCF. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, okay. The Incredibles. I saw that movie. I did like that movie.
That was the beginning of like 3D animations in movies. Like I remember Toy Story was like a 3D movie. Yeah. I think that was like I don't know if you can think of it as like a blurring of time between like the analog and not the now digital worlds. But we have the.
I am going to look up El Shifa Pharmaceutical Factory.
And Nick Swirl you were born in 224, so you're a Zoomer, which is great. I think one of my New Year's resolutions is I want more Zoomer friends. I feel like I have a lot of friends my age. I have a lot of friends that are older, but I want Zoomer friends because I don't know. I feel like
hear what they're saying.
I feel like maybe I have a lot of ideologies that are kind of fit more Zoomers, and I feel like I'm at the age now where I need to start trying to be hip.
Yeah,
right. I need to be because I think. I saw a clip online of just the new terminology that youngins are using, and there's all sorts of words. And these kids that are coming up the pipeline, even the new generation behind Zoomers, I don't even know if they have a name yet, but they are like radically different human beings, which is good. I think I'm at a point too where I can see and understand Boomers, but I can also see and understand Zoomers and their sense of the world. Because I don't need to explain to a Zoomer that Social Security is a scam. They just it's just intuitively they understand that. Now I have the joke too that like, are Zoomers going to rebuild the infrastructure? Like we have all this decaying, dying infrastructure. Things are falling apart, and like
maybe they will.
Zoomers just want to make TikToks. Like they don't want to like weld bridges and like mix concrete. Like those that right. And we talked earlier when we were talking about like men and masculinity of like blue collar work. Like you can only like offshore blue collar work and like not train people in blue collar work because you're pushing them to 4 years degrees before what's the term? The chickens come home to roost. But like, right? If you go 40 years where you're not seriously training young people to do blue collar trades, eventually 40 years down the line, there's no one to do the blue collar trades.
Here's a question. Okay, we only have 4 minutes, but are we tough enough? Could we fight a war?
That's a very valid question.
If we had to, like, because are we too mushy now?
Well, I think, let's tackle it a couple different things. I think first, the military, I think most Americans don't pass the basic fitness tests. So, like, there's basic generic fitness tests. Then there's the sense of what would people, right? What are people fighting? Yeah, I think there's the general spirit, right? You need the physical capabilities, but you also need the spirit. I would say that, yes, we are too soft. But also, what is the new warfare? I don't think the new type of warfare is China coming over here with tanks and rolling us over. I think it is this type of informational warfare where they're using TikTok and, social media to kind of infiltrate kind of the software running our population versus, although there's, I don't know. I'd say yes, we are too soft to fight a war. I think Americans in general, too, are just extremely comfortable and are not prepared for any sort of conflict with a foreign adversary. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I think, well, Americans, we are very violent. I think we can always find that violent. We can find a bunch of things, but are we capable? We couldn't do World War II, but the thing is, we're not in the World War II days anymore. We have people who, like I was seeing in Ukraine, there's guys who they're just operating drones. There's guys under bunkers, and they're just droning people. So the world is different, and we're adapted to that. But do we have like?
Oh yeah, and that's why I don't think, right? I don't think, like you're saying, I think our gun culture is so bad, and I think people are generally, I think Americans have a kind of an FU attitude that if someone did start to threaten America, I think Americans would very quickly band together and fight the enemy. I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think the new 21st century warfare is. I think it is a combination of drones and unmanned aerial devices, but also just infiltrating the software of throwing wrenches, infiltrating the minds of people versus physical attacks. But who knows? I think there was these recent terrorist attack in New Orleans, and I'm not fully versed on what happened there, but I think we're in for weird times. I don't know. I think the American spirit is also more powerful and shouldn't be underestimated. But if we were drafted for some sort of trench warfare, World War I style trench warfare, no. But I also don't think
we'd have to.
Yeah, I think the new warfare is fought with code, and it's more cyber than it is, digging trenches and sitting in there with your guns. So we got an hour there.
Yeah,
we got a minute left. So do we have any pressing last bits of wisdom for our brave souls?
Folks, look up Gnosticism. It's fascinating.
So Gnosticism are smart people.
They had
knowledge.
They got secret knowledge, and it was a branch of Christianity that did not prosper as other branches, like the current Christianity. Yeah, it was hidden away, and but why? Yeah, it's very mysterious.
Interesting.
Mysterious stuff, and fun part of the if you're in early Christianity, what happened?
Yeah, and hopefully we can help spur a new spiritual revival and spiritual renaissance.
Or revival,
Yeah, revival of culture.
Of culture, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nick's World, our top tier puppeteer, for puppeteering us today. And
Nick. Okay, the Pokemon, the flashing lights, and the films of your time.
Other side. Good night, Nick's World, and good night, Think Twice Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, this is Small Talk with Matt and John.
Yeah.